A man getting bit by an alligator and he screams.
Okay, quiet. Hey, quiet.
Sit out towards me.
Ow! No, not an owl. A real scream of pain.
Okay, Jason, day two.
Yeah, day
Day
two
two
is
of
done.
DIFF. It is driving and screaming. Part 2.
What time did you start this morning? Right then, like 7 at least to getting up. Well, you were up at 5.
I was up at 5 with the not issues.
Well,
she just wakes me up early because she. Well, it's not even that she wants to eat. She just gets lonely and bored and wants someone to hang out with, and so.
Yeah, makes sense.
So no, I was up at 5. And
we need to start the only dog-friendly film festival, like where dogs are allowed to like hang out with us all day long.
Right. There's a theater. Well, there used to be a theater, like north of Dallas, that was dog friendly.
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
I mean, you can take him you can take him to the drive-in. It seems a little much, and like, and it's also you have to have a dog that was also friendly with other dogs. So there's that as well.
But I feel like the loud noises would probably bother them.
My whole point is that it's been a long day.
It's been a long day.
It's been a good day, but it's been a long day.
It's now like what, 11:30?
It's ebbed and flowed. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
We saw 4 films today, and we talked to another set of filmmakers. So we can talk. We talked to the Due West folks this morning.
We had a great interview with Evan and Henry Thomas and Adrian Pilecki.
Once again, yeah.
Yeah, because she has 2 films here. I think it was just a really convivial conversation, a really smart conversation, a conversation I really enjoyed about a film I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about Due West.
Let's talk Due West. Yeah.
Give us the rundown there.
What's a rundown,
Jason?
So you got a format for that rundown? Because I'm not sure. So Due West is a
run up.
The through line of the movie is it's a young woman who's on her own. It runs into medical troubles in West Texas, essentially. We come to find out that our heroine, who's simply named the Woman, you don't ever hear her name. And actually, I went back with the screener and was like, I thought we heard her name, but you never do. It's very, very clever. Like when people talk to her, they're knowing, but they don't ever mention her name. Even when it's like, and she never mentions her name.
Nope.
When she's like speaking to her brother's wife.
Mindy, and that's her
right,
name.
and she's like, she says it's me, and then Mindy recognizes it. But
she's a real bitch, too.
But this is a woman who is gotten pregnant. We find out through a rape.
Yep. And date rape at that. I mean, not that like I'm qualified.
Wow. There's
No, I know. No.
You want to rank the rapes?
Here's the thing.
Is this what the Real Stream wants to do?
No. I bring that up because there's something almost like more sinister in that, and it's harder for her to talk about, right? It's harder for her to tell her brother, because the man who assaulted her and raped her is her brother's wife's.
It's his brother-in-law.
Brother, yeah. I don't really like the in-law thing.
Okay, sorry.
No, so when I was married, people would say, "Oh, your mother-in-law." I'm like, no, I have a mother. That's my wife's mother, right? So I have issues. Okay.
but to be fair, most people understand what a brother-in-law is. So the wife's brother, like that, is going to confuse and overly complicate things that we
brother's wife's brother
not be complicated. Brother-in-law, regardless of how you feel about the term and how it applies to you personally, This is the brother-in-law in the movie.
Okay.
All right. So let's take a step back.
But again, so I think that's why it's more like nefarious. Even.
Right.
Okay,
and also in the film, he's a person that comes from money, who comes from a quote-unquote good family or rich family. Right. So like people see him in a certain way.
Yeah.
Right. And don't see him in the way that our heroine finds herself feeling about him, or how they've interacted. Anyway, so it's a difficult situation, right? And she's got to keep all this kind of to herself, and so she's on a mission to get drugs that will help her terminate her pregnancy. And she's up against the clock because she's in Texas, and this film really doesn't address we know that she's in Texas, just obviously, and it's obviously the plot line of the film, the description says she's in Texas, but this film doesn't really address like the actual laws of this film. It kind of touches on them, right? But with a near total ban of a near total abortion ban, and for all intents and purposes, an abortion ban in Texas, to the point where doctors are afraid to give women medical care. And I think this is part of the reason they're telling this story, right? And so she goes to find medication that will help her terminate the pregnancy within the time frame that she needs to, and of course she's kind of taken advantage of it at every turn. Yeah. And she finds allyship and friendship in unlikely places. Henry Thomas plays a pastor in this local small West Texas town who is clearly conflicted, but still wants to help his parishioners. One of the things we didn't talk about in the conversation, and I thought, because we kind of ran out of time, I think we could have talked to them for a good hour.
And they let us talk longer,
right? Absolutely,
than we were scheduled for. So, thank you for that.
100%. But I do think, and so I guess my point was not that we, in any of these kind of junket type situations, we're limited, right? We can't just sit down with them over lunch and have this conversation. But one of the things that we did get to bring up that I thought was that there's, I think, one of the more telling and hurtful scenes for Pastor Mike, and I think what might have moved him in a certain way is that when he's listening to Annie, and Annie is Adrienne Pilicki's nickname in real life, and also what she gets called at the end of the movie. So take that for whatever way. Although her character is named just the woman, but she's talking to him about she finally kind of lets her guard down with this person who's she's up against it. She's
completely been broken at that point.
Right. She's been robbed. She's been raped again, and she has. And the only way that she can take care of the situation she needs to take care of, that she thinks she needs to take care of, is get to New Mexico, get to a state that has that can actually help her. But again, there's problems there, and so and while it's not quote unquote illegal in Texas, it is prosecutable, and it's a gray area for people who help women get abortions to be sued civilly. It's a fucked up situation. We're in a backwards ass state.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the conversation where Pastor Mike is sitting with Annie and saying, you find yourself in trouble. But he's a good guy, and he comes from a good family, so you won't be, if you choose to keep it, you won't. It'll be fine. And she's like, he's not a good guy.
Yeah.
And I wanted him to be a good guy, and he's not a good guy. And I think that moment, I think Henry Thomas is so good in this, because he carries that look on his face of he carries the weight of a small town preacher who wants to do good, who wants to be a man
for everyone,
right? Who wants to be a man of God, but understands that the world is a complicated place.
Yep.
And that moment where he's like, I'm advising a woman I'm the guy now. I'm the guy who's advising a woman to stay with her rapist. And I think, to me, if I'm reading the room and reading the film, that's the moment that Pastor Mike is like, I'm going to help her, and I'm going to be quiet. Right. And I'm going to offer my services up to her. And so he's driving her back to her car, and he looks in her bag while she's asleep and finds out that she needs to go to New Mexico, and he drives her there. And it basically said, hey, I gave you a ride, and that's all I did. I gave you a ride. If anyone asks, I gave you a ride to a place you needed a ride to. I mean, he doesn't actually state those words, but that's essentially...
No, because she kind of says, what are you doing? And he's like, just giving you a ride. Like, I mean, that was it.
Right.
But I think that's also like a strong notion of allyship, right? Where he isn't saying anything else at that time. He's just saying, I'm just here, like, to get you what you need, all right? To get you the help that you need without anything else. And because I don't think it's really like, I guess you could read it as a sign of, well, cowardice in a way, of not saying like, oh, you need this, you whatever, but like, I'm just here to
right, but I think that's the entirety of the film. But not cowardice, right? Is the film never becomes preachy, right?
Yes.
The film is never so on the nose. It's never really like this is a film that is meant to evoke empathy. It is a film meant to tell a story, a singular story of many women in Texas that are facing the exact same thing. And yes, it is specific, but it is opening. It is intended to open the eyes of.
And you set it in a place like Texas because of that near total abortion ban, right? Or like a complete abortion ban, for all intents and purposes. Because then that does relate to wherever someone else lives, right? So you're showing someone go through these hoops and troubles and obstacles to get this care, and you can see how hard it is for everyone everywhere, or every woman everywhere, I should say. Right. Because it's not hard for me.
And there's no one to trust, right? And I think one of the things that like really stands out about this film is with lesser leads. I don't think that with lesser leads, I think this film doesn't do its job as well. Right. But I think Adrienne Palicki does such a great job of conveying the woman's story and also her conviction, and also her vulnerability. There's moments in this film where like she completely gets fucked over, and there's never a moment where like the film or her character breaks, right? Or fights back. Even she's resigned to the fact that she has to get from point A to point B, and that there's going to be obstacles in the way, and it's useless to fight the obstacles. It's the best thing to do is just to go around, is to find the next road, right? So when she goes to the pharmacy and finds out that the prescription was fake, and that that pharmacy doesn't even carry the medicine anyway, you can see the look of devastation in her eyes. And yes, she goes back to kind of try to get her money back and fight, but she doesn't break down. She doesn't like get herself arrested. It doesn't like So I really like the choices that this film makes, because it has to walk a fine line with, you don't have to trust, you don't have to like everything that she does, but you have to be on her side. You have to see her side of it. Right. Yes. You have to, look, here's that cliche, you have to sort of walk in her shoes, right? Right. You have to do that. And this film, I think, is so confident in that as well, that fine line that it walks. It's so confident, it's never scared. You never get the feeling that, they're gonna like shy away from something, or they're gonna like only this isn't half-assed. Right. And for a first feature-length feature from Evan Miller, I think this is a really confident film, and I think one of the things he does really, really well is, I think he lets the setting also tell the story, right? Yep. So this is filmed in Marfa and Alpine, and in deep West Texas. I would even say Southwest Texas in this case, where you have long stretches of highway, you have long stretches of empty, isolated road. One of the things we like, is it Marcy that she comes upon? I can't remember the girl's name who helps her out with
Sierra Bravo.
Yes, and she's really good in this. She's really great in this too. So all the people that, like you said in the interview, this becomes kind of a road movie in essence, and she meets these characters that help her out, or female characters that help her out along the way. What I really love too is that all of the help that she gets, the real meaningful help aside from Pastor Mike, is from women, right? These women help her along the way, right, to reach her final destination, right? Her friend who works at the bar covers her shifts, right? Even though she has kids of her own and has other things to do, and doesn't bitch about it, right? Doesn't give her any shit for doing it. Sierra Bravo picks her up when she's hitchhiking, right? Gets her to where she needs to go from there, and then we meet a woman named Nina at the end who sets up the appointment in New Mexico and pays for it. a really good movie, a really solid one. I hope that it finds distributors. I hope it gets gets out there. I guess that's not necessarily an easy film to watch, but I do think it's an important film, especially as of right now. I mean, like it's.
How long was it?
I think it was 90 minutes ish. Like it was like. It was in that kind of same realm of Omaha. Like,
and there's no fat on it.
No,
I mean, it's really lean, and it's a tough watch, but it like never, it never stops, and it never like, I don't know, you never have to like really sit with something too long.
Right.
Except for the hotel scene.
Yeah, that was rough. It's funny the way that it starts too. Like the movie has this weird like shift in tone a few times. And I don't mean weird in a bad way. It's just really interesting. Again, if we had more time, I'd love to talk about this too. But because they open up with two guys at a bar, like basically kind of telling a joke, right? I mean, like, and just kind of laughing with one another, and then we kind of, then the party is really filmed almost differently, right? It's like because it's filmed like almost like a beer commercial in a lot of ways, or like
it really is, right?
Yeah, I mean, and so you get all this jubilation, but obviously we know that there's something bigger at hand, right?
Right. She's we and like that's the thing. Like we only find out that it's an abortion and stuff at the end. Right. So we know that she's in some kind of trouble and needs to get somewhere with a certain amount of money, but we don't know why. Right. Because she won't tell anybody why. It's really good. I think it's really smartly done. Right.
Yeah.
The fact that they don't preach, they don't hit you over the head with the message.
And to be fair, I said I know you didn't see his short, but I did not like the short.
Right.
And it wasn't because of the acting. Well, it was because one side of the acting. But again, to be totally fair and transparent, I don't like Zachary Levi, and so carrying over the art and the artist at the same time, and I hesitate to call him an artist.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're fine with him, right? I'm sure I don't want to badmouth like I do, but I mean like whatever their relationship is.
It seems like they have a working.
but I thought what Thoughts and Prayers really didn't do right. I think this one really does. I think that I get what they were trying to do with Thoughts and Prayers, and like that we're all left, right, we're all under this. But I think it was too like big of a message. It was too big of a topic to cover in a 10-minute film, right? And to get across what you may be trying to get across. I think it was technically fine. I mean, but I do think that this is a really, really impressive film, and I hope that everyone gets the accolades they deserve from this. I think Henry Thomas is really good. I obviously think Adrian is amazing in this. Yeah. Like to the point, like we were talking about, like Emily the Criminal and like all of the accolades that Aubrey Plaza got for that. Like I think this is kind of that kind of level of role where you show a dramatic, serious side. Not that she hasn't had those, but like especially like in things like Friday Night Lights. But this really is. Yeah, I think it showcases her the talent that's been there in a really different way.
It's a good role for her, and I think she was directed really well in this too.
So the other festival film that we saw, which is we saw 4 films today, and we didn't see. We've watched Due West via screener, right? But to be beholden to DIFF, we'll talk about this. We'll talk about the other films.
Good, because I was gonna say like we need to talk about the other.
Right. So we saw The Other tonight, which is a really and bizarre and perverse double feature to talk about it. Right. Because this is all about a couple who are adopting a young black child, and this is white kind of upper crust couple, although they have jobs that wouldn't necessarily necessitate kind of undermines their upper crustness, right? And whatever, that's fine. But they adopt this young black child who's had a traumatic past. It's interesting. And doesn't speak. So they have to kind of like figure out this entire thing. And then this turns into a horror film where
about white saviors.
Yes, right. And like we come to find out that the mom has had like 4 miscarriages, and so that's part of the reason that that they're doing this adoption. And then of course immediately as the adoption comes, like everything starts to go awry. All the food starts to spoil. These weird parasitic like blobs show up in their pool. Other things just mold starts to grow everywhere, and and then the rest of it is just like any other horror film where we're trying to figure all of this stuff out. I will say that yes, the whites. So okay, let's talk to that.
Yeah.
Like, I when I started watching this film, I thought her race was going to play a part in this film. I don't really think that it does. I don't think that her being an African American child or a black child that it means anything in this movie. And it's really kind of like, it's interesting to put that in place and make people think that that's what it's going to be, because they mention it, right? They mention that they need to get darker dolls for her to play with and things like that. And the title indicates that there's a kind of
othering
some sort of like
the child and
exactly.
Yeah.
And like it never really comes into play. I feel like, look, I'm all fine for subverting expectations in that sense, right?
Right.
But it's an interesting case to lead your audience down a certain way, and then to completely like just
do nothing
with it. And to be honest, I'm kind of cool that it doesn't have to do anything with it. It's just that like going in, you have to understand the expectations of like.
Well, and then the way it starts too.
With
those conversations, some of the things they say, the things they look at, or when she calls her like, so the child's name is Cathelia,
right? And
at one point she calls her Kathy. And you're like, Jesus Christ. Or like trying on this name of like, maybe you want to change it to Jessica.
Right.
You're just like, because it's easier for you to.
And it kind of like, I think all of those are really like, there's a really interesting movie, another movie that would do this right. I mean, not do this right.
I understand,
do this in a different way, right? That would take all of that kind of, put it in a Jordan Peele area where like this, like really put a twist on white saviorism in this particular case, right? I think going into this and then how we end up with the film, where it's very much like Malignant, right? This is very along the same lines as Malignant, where there's a parasitic twin. Spoiler alert as this comes out, but there's a parasitic twin inside this little girl's head, and there's a Zelda Rubinstein character in a young girl who has Down syndrome, who is awesome,
fantastic. She's
so
amazing.
Good.
She is just amazing. From like moment one, as soon as she jumps on the screen, you're like, oh hello, like just immediately.
And she plays that part where she's the knowing, like basically the knowing narrator in all of this, and like pointing everything out to the dum-dums who should know better.
Right.
But it follows all the same tropes where people don't believe what's going on. There's all these horrible things that are going on that they can't explain, and of course, and like a lot of the mythology that is left unexplained, right? Like we don't know how the parasitic twin, who's still like a sliver inside of the girl's head,
then crawls out. It's like like a toddler,
right? It's also able. So this girl's been adopted several different times and every single time she comes, bad things start to happen, and the women that she's adopted by start to get pregnant. I'm assuming that the mythology there is that the pregnancies are supposed to drive and provide a body for the parasitic twin to either take over at some point. I will say that this movie lost me a few times, and then this. If you take this as like an old school like sequel to an established horror film, 80s like horror film, like The Unborn 2, or if you're willing to go with the bonkersness of it all, it really kind of ends up a lot of fucking fun.
Right. So this grew on me through the time watching it, because it started off when I was like not really on board, but the more it went on, the more I kind of got into it, and maybe it just took me a minute to kind of find its vibe. And to just
I think.
But by the end of it, I was on board.
I think this thing has fucking legs, man.
I do too.
I think this is a movie that, like, if people find it and it gets picked up on Shudder. This is something that people will fucking dig the shit out of.
I was gonna say this would be like a Shudder.
Yes,
I mean that's exactly what this is.
Midnight Films, this is. It's so like. It's like Basket Case. It's like it's like the Seed of Chucky in a sense. Like it's not overly funny in those ways, but it is like the crowd was really digging the moment. Yeah.
So this was really fun to watch with a big crowd.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was a lot of fun to watch with a big crowd. I mean, to hear people. I mean, like there were a couple jump scares, nothing major, but to hear people laugh at themselves when they jumped, right? To laugh at some of the jokes were really like. So subtle, right? Because that guy I thought was pretty good.
The
husband, he looks familiar.
But so does the female lead.
Actually, you're right.
And was the lady who gave you the chair the other mother that was attacking her?
Oh, I think she was.
Yeah, so
I think you're right.
There was a lot of the actors that were there tonight, and I think we interacted with one of them, and we didn't know that she was in the movie. But
look. So, I mean, in fairness, we had our press badges on.
Right, yeah.
She should have said something.
She could have said, hey, I'm in this movie if you guys want to talk to me.
Yeah, we would have said, absolutely, madam.
100%. What are you guys hanging out with afterwards?
Yeah, let's go.
But yeah, this, like, it takes such a huge left turn. And what I love about that is that it really is this kind of marriage of this 2020 Blumhouse level horror, right? But then this kind of also this bonkers 80s body horror, like, It's Alive kind of shit. Like this, this is a Larry Cohen film in a lot of ways. And I know that's not the 80s, right? But you. No, but
I was thinking that too as it was going.
It has a lot of those trappings, and I mean, look, having the little girl just break its neck and throw it away, I mean, it's great. Also, it sets up a stupid sequel. You could do so much with this. And it's so great. And I think the little girl, another child actor that not just Zelda, but
Cathelia.
So I think Cathelia's.
Oh, Fiona.
Fiona is obviously great. I think Cathelia is really good in this too. Without having a speaking role and being able to have to convey those emotions via her face. I think Cathelia and whatever you name the demon parasitic twin, right? Cathelia and the other. This would be a cool, if you could keep her, get her under contract in some way and get her to come back.
And maybe that's the title of the second one.
Cathelia and the other. But come back 5 years later, where Cathelia's got a scar on her head, but she's now she can talk and do but somehow this is how the others kind of gotten strength again. I mean, I think this is a movie that it begs to be seen with a crowd. It begs to be seen in a midnight type screening, and I think this is one of those ones that you're gonna have to get out of this lane. Maybe you're not. I'm sorry.
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, sometimes the construction is rough here. It's driving while screaming, folks. Sorry.
Remember, we are driving while we're screaming.
But I think this is a really he pulled it out at the end, and I can see some people still wanting a very serious horror film. This is not that.
But it's better because of that.
It's definitely better because of that. I was not expecting any of that, and that was so wonderfully surprised by how that all wrapped up that I couldn't be more pleased, really.
I know. I still think halfway through I was concerned. I was I'm gonna get out of this screening and I'm gonna be I fucking hate this movie. But
because at a lot of points it doesn't do much differently, right? Again, we talked about with Salamander King, a lot of it we'd seen before. It wasn't. I will say this was executed better than Salamander King. So a lot of the things that we'd seen before, I think were still done really well. So when we get to the other parent's house, and the maggots coming out of the knees, and just when you realize that she's chained to the floor, and you realize that you know that the Cathelia is supposed to be our hero, so we know we're on her side, but we're still always in question, like why we know, okay, she's grabbing the knives and the saw and the drill to protect herself.
Right.
But
from what?
But
right?
but also we keep getting pulled back into, all right, well, she still seems kind of fucking crazy. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
everything seems to get worse when she gets closer. Right.
So, like, how are we gonna? So, I think that story and how they did that. Like I said, it could have easily just been a bland, horror film, and I think I think we would have all kind of come here and said it was probably really technically proficient and like it looked fine and the people were fine, but like it did nothing with the story. But like with that ending, and I do love that. So good. I do love that it did do the body horror. It did do the gore. Like, I mean, I love that. Like, it kind of like wanted to kind of go out on a big splash. So we
see the drilling in the head.
We see the drilling in the head. We see the eyeballs in the brain. We see that the nurse or the doctor gets stabbed. Oof, we see the husband get stabbed with the scissors, and we see a kind of gaping wound.
Scissors too.
Like, also, we haven't talked about Shawnee Smith either. Like, she's like having so much fun in this film.
She's really enjoying herself. But again, like some of the humorous moments came from her. Right.
Yes. And like realizing that, I think she's kind of become kind of a late, a late career scream queen.
Yeah.
Scream queen.
Scream queen?
And I know she did horror like early on. I mean, I know that she was in.
But it's when she got into the Saw.
But when she got into the Saw things, you're right. That really is kind of like catapulted her. And it's interesting. Like, I know that she's in this movie to lend credence to a small independent low budget feature, right? That will help get it in front of people because people recognize the name.
Right, Shawnee Smith from Becker.
Yes, from Summer School, which actually is probably a pretty big title. I mean, as far as like those, right. But I mean, like, yes, she is the mother of Fiona, and clearly she's a wild card. Like, she's doing, like, I wonder when I see movies like this that clearly have like character traits that don't play out in the film. Like, why is Shawnee, and I'm not criticizing the film at all. No. I just think it's funny to me, like, why is Shawnee Smith like a metal worker?
Right.
Like, what? There's no.
Right. She's an artist. She's sculpting.
Right. Okay, but still, like, why?
right. But why? Yeah.
Why does she have a metal grinder?
That doesn't answer the question.
It doesn't make any fucking sense. It doesn't not make sense, but it's just like, why? But we spend some time on it, right? I mean, we show her doing it.
More than once.
It seems like we needed to go to Shawnee. This makes me think that Shawnee Smith in real life is a metallurgist. Like, she actually like does sculpting with metal. Yeah. Because otherwise, or that she's always like, she went to the director and was like, you know what? I'll sign on, but I want my character to be a sculptor.
I've always wanted to work to sculpt. Yeah.
I was really inspired by Ali Larter's character in Final Destination 1, who was also a metal sculptor, and I wanted to like kind of tie that in. So can we do that?
I can't believe you just brought in Ali Larter.
But yeah, I think this has a pretty good chance of getting picked up and getting some sort of distribution someplace.
Oh, I do too. I do too.
And I do think that like this was its premiere. I would be surprised if it doesn't go to other festivals and get some notoriety. I don't know when. Like, I think Fantastic Fest has already happened, right? I mean, so like, or maybe it happens later.
No, it's in September.
Okay, all right. I wouldn't be shocked to hear that this.
Yeah, you would see it there. No, that would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
But that was our two for today. If you want to know what else we saw The Shrouds, the new Cronenberg film. We saw True Stories, the David Byrne film. And then we saw
On Swift Horses,
the new Jacob Elordi, Daisy, Edgar Jones, and Will Poulter.
Who's in just everything.
Right, yeah, he's
just turn around and you see Will Poulter.
Right. I mean, we got to use them while we can.
Right, and he's got to work. I'm sure he's got hobbies.
But we'll talk about all of those films at a later time, or at least the two new ones. I don't know if we can talk True Stories later.
Sure.
But we'll definitely talk The Shrouds because we've got a lot to talk about there.
Jesus.
And On Swift Horses, but not in a Diff recap.
Right.
And so
because this is Diff.
This is
about Diff.
It's Diff
So tomorrow...
Do movies diff?
What?
That's their slogan.
I know.
It's not mine.
Sorry.
I didn't come up with it.
Do movies diff? I don't know. I've never asked them.
Why does the Wilhelm scream and do movies diff? These are the 2 questions we'll answer this week.
It's a collab. We're dropping merch next week. So tomorrow we have another 3 movies.
Another 3 movies we're going to see. We're going to see Friendship, the new big huge A24 film. We're going to see a movie called
Happy as Larry,
and then a movie called. We don't see Toxic tomorrow, right? We see something else.
Yes.
That I don't recall what it is.
But we'll figure it out.
We will figure it out.
And we'll talk about it tomorrow. Right.
And we're interviewing a filmmaker and an actor from a movie called Cafe Chirel.
Yeah, which we're excited to do.
We are very excited. We'll talk about that movie tomorrow as well. So stay tuned, people. Thank you for listening. And
yeah, keep screaming.
Keep screaming. Hell yeah.
You have been listening to Why Does the Wilhelm Scream with your hosts, Brock and Jason. If you liked today's episode, do us a favor and rate, review, and subscribe in whatever application you use to consume podcasts these days. You can reach us by visiting whydoesthewilhelmscream.com. If you are in the DFW area, we would love to see you at a Fort Worth Film Club event. You can learn more about those and find a full schedule at fortworthfilmclub.com. And you can learn about my foundation and how we are trying to foster the next generation of film lovers at realhousefoundation.org. That's REEL housefoundation.org. Till next time,